What a day, what a day. Well, guys, definitely a big day in the markets for Rocket Lab stock. It really escalated quickly. We had a massive sell-off. Thought it was a little bit overdone, although we were kind of bracing for it going into the open today after we saw the big announcement last night. If you didn't see my video yesterday about the Rocket Lab cash raise, basically they're raising $275 million. There's a lot more details if you dive into the weeds of the financials and the structure of how it's going. But yeah, they're raising additional money. A lot of people thought they weren't going to need it, and they decided to be opportunistic and do it at this time as opposed to waiting till later when there might be more difficult terms or more difficulty raising money. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Dave. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome, and I hope you will consider subscribing by the end of the video, and those likes always do help out as well. So first of all, today I just wanted to say, I hope you guys are doing okay out there. I know if you're holding a stock and it's a big position in your portfolio, or for some people it could be even their only position, seeing a big day down like this can be extremely upsetting and difficult on your mental health. And especially I think for people who've been holding since the SPAC when it was, $10 per share and above, it could be a bit of a tough pill to swallow, seeing this kind of a dilution event and a resulting sell-off going down 20+%. Difficult for anyone, but do try to remember, I think your health is most important. It comes first, and at the end of the day, while we do care a lot about money here, money does come and go. Now, with that out of the way, though, it's not all doom and gloom here either, and I'm not trying to make it out to be like the end of the world. So with all that talk, I really just wanted to say, I hope you guys are doing okay, but as again, I'm not that upset by what's happened. I think the reaction was a little bit overblown, especially when we got down towards the lows. The stock did recover a decent amount as the day went on before falling off a little bit again. But I also added some shares and made some trades, so I will tell you about that as well. Let's take a quick look at the charts, talk about what happened today. I'll show you some trades, and I'll share some thoughts on Rocket Lab's stock movement. So first of all, just a one-day chart of the stock, and clearly it wasn't pretty, dropping off a cliff at the open, continuing to drop as the day went on, until about, say, 10:30ish, where it really got low. And I have to be honest, I didn't think Rocket Lab stock was ever going to be in the threes again, so I was pretty shocked by this. I did think a dilution event like this, a capital raise, would come, but I didn't think the stock would be this negative about it. So I guess maybe that's my mistake or my naivety on that one, but it was quite a massive drop as the day went on. And I'll show you some of my buys later on, but I kind of bought early and then it dropped further, and I was like, oh, screw it, I'm going to buy some more when it got this low, down in the 3.9 odd range. I couldn't pass it up. I remember when I started investing in this company and I added more and more shares and I got really bullish. My share count goal was 10,000 shares, and I am past that now, but I couldn't help myself. I thought it was so cheap that it was a bargain, so I added some more. I do think it is good for investors to hold index funds and some stuff on the safer side of things. I know there's a lot of people out there, Wild West investors, who will just go all in on a single stock that's extremely volatile. I generally recommend holding the S&P 500 as well, or some other index funds, and I do that myself, and it does comfort you a little bit on days like today, I have to say. And if you did get extremely upset today about the stock drop and your own holdings, this is an extremely volatile company, and it will continue to be extremely volatile. So if you're really not prepared for that sort of thing, then yeah, index investing, there's nothing wrong with it. It will allow you to sleep soundly at night for the vast majority of people. But for me anyway, I did add some more Rocket Lab shares, and I still hold those index funds. Looking at a 5-day chart, you can really see the drop and more focus here, going from the 5s all the way down to, below 4. Really massive drop off over the past few days. And what I thought was the most interesting was the volume So this bottom chart is showing the volume, and you can barely see the little red dots and green dots in terms of how much volume and the shares were being traded on each day at each time for the past 4 days. And then you get to today, and it's just like, oh my God, like so much volume moved today off of this news. Really wild stuff, the amount of shares that changed hands. And no new shares have been issued yet. So this is all just trading around the news, people selling because they're unhappy with it, perhaps algorithms, perhaps some big institutions. And I think a lot of retail investors were buying it up. I know I bought some. Massive amounts of volume really driving down the stock price. So onto my share purchases. There was several trades today throughout the day. I'll take you through it. I know it looks like a lot, but somehow, for some reason, when I put in these orders, they often get broken up into separate chunks when I place orders, even though it was like one buy. So that happened with several of these. So first off, earlier in the day, I saw that it was trading around 416. To me, below 450 is usually quite a good deal for the stock. So I added, some more shares. Now, I had to sell something to add shares, and I sold some Qualcomm, which I am okay with. I don't have a ton of free cash available, so I tend to have to sell things right now when I'm adding. It's always a tough call to make. I'm going to go back to these call options a little later because I think this is going to be an interesting one and kind of just fun for the whole channel to watch how it plays out. 10 contracts on those call options, but keep that in mind. We'll go back to it later. So, continuing on, it dropped even more, and I was like, okay, I saw it in the threes, and I was like, I wasn't planning to buy more, but I mean, come on, we're seeing 3.92 or something like that. So I went ahead and added even more shares in the 3.92, 3.91 range. I sold CRISPR to help pay for that. A stock I just kind of bought on a complete speculation several years ago when I didn't, do the same level of research I do now. Anyway, so I'm out of CRISPR. I bought more shares, and then we did make some more buys across several different accounts. So 100, 200, 100, 100, 100. We'll go through the totals a little later on. Then in my separate tax-free account, my TFSA that Canadians do get, I also added some more shares with the little free cash I had available. I think it was something like $400, and I was like, screw it, I'm just buying $400 worth, even though I usually don't like to, buy in quantities that small because the commission can be a little higher on a percentage basis. So about $395 worth on that buy. And then in one of my other accounts where I sold some Canadian banks and bought some more at the 3.915 as well. So basically it was about 3 different purchases that got cut up into a few different blocks, and as well it was some options that I think will be at least fun to follow. We'll see what happens on those. Yeah, every time I think I'm done buying Rocket Lab stock, it goes lower, and I just think it's too good a deal to pass up. So hopefully that is the case here. Let me know what you did today, if you added shares, if you sold because you were really angry or upset. I mean, I can understand that. I did see some people out there on Twitter and various social media who were kind of disappointed in the management of the company and weren't expecting any events like this to occur. That brings my new share total to 12,600 shares. You'll remember I used to be at 10,000. That's when I thought I had stopped. Cost basis down to now 4.45. When I originally started buying shares, it was around $5, and I've just been averaging down ever since. So happy to have my cost basis below $4.5 per share. I do think we'll get back above there in the not too distant future. Now let's look a little bit at these call options because it can get a little interesting. I don't know how familiar you guys are with options trading, but I thought it would just be a little fun thing to do. I fully recognize the risks around this, and I'm not advising anyone to do it. This is not financial advice. I'm prepared to lose all $1,050 I spent on this option if it does go to zero, and we'll see how it goes. So again, it got divided up into 2 blocks. I bought 10 call option contracts that expire on January 16th, 2026. This is as far out as we're able to go on options for Rocket Lab right now. So basically 2 years in the future, a little under 2 years. The strike price is $7 per share. I paid 105 times 100 per contract times 10 contracts means I paid $1,050 for these contracts. Now, the break even on this is very high. Now, keep in mind this is 2 years out. I'm expecting a lot of growth in the interim. And importantly, I am expecting the first profitable quarter for the company to come probably end of 2025. So hopefully we do see that profitability come through at least for a quarter before the end of this contract. I would have gone out a little further if I could, just to ensure we do get that earnings call, because as you can see from today, earnings call for Q4 of 2023 is still not happened yet. It's in February. So this expiry date of January 16th, we probably won't have the earnings call yet for Q4 of 2025. Makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but hopefully by then the profitability metrics will be showing, and we'll get some guidance for profitability, and that will really move the stock and things will be good. So break even at $8 per share. Very risky. Why I say that I don't advise people to do this, and it's only what I call my fun money on the side that I'm doing this with. So let's just go through some scenarios here just for fun. I'm going to take into account what the share price is on January 16th, 2026, what the options would return me versus what just buying the same value today of shares would return me, and put the market cap of the company beside. And I'm basing this on 540 million shares outstanding. So the one thing you'll notice here about the shares outstanding is I went ahead and added in the number of shares they would have to issue to cover this new offering. Now, this will be 2026, and it doesn't become mature until more like 2029 with the option to deal with them starting in 2027. So those shares will not actually be outstanding yet. But I figured just kind of a worst case scenario type thing, I would take it into account and show what the market cap is at these various levels with that amount of shares outstanding. But we could subtract out the difference, and we'd come to a different valuation. Anyway, so what I wanted to go through right now is just to show you how this option contract will work. If the price on January 16th of 2026, when this does expire, is what it is today, or when I purchased the option around 410, that means I lose everything of this $1,000. I come out with nothing. If I bought shares instead, I would still have the same amount. It would be flat, that $1,050. If it's $7, I would still have absolutely nothing because the strike price is $7, and my shares would do quite well for themselves, $1,792. Now, this is why I'd say it's really risky, because in a scenario like this, you lose everything and shareholders are still happy and can have that potential higher returns down the line. 8.05 is where the break even happens. We get our money back, $1,050, and the shares still did better, making $2,060. Things start to get better for the option here, though. If it's $10 per share, that means the option return is just under $2,000 and the share return is $2,500. So the option is starting to catch up here, and it's only going to accelerate. $15 per share means the option return would be closer to $7,000 versus the share return under $4,000. And this is where the option value really starts to shine, that high risk, high reward really paying off. $20 per share, we're looking at $12,000 versus $5,000. $25, looking at about $17 versus $6.5. And if you really want to dream, because we're kind of dreaming here, it's kind of fun to think about. $50 per share. I don't expect this to happen whatsoever, but I figured I'd just put it in because crazier things have happened. I mean, we saw Virgin Galactic go up to wild share prices at one point. Not to throw any shade at any other companies, but anyway. So let's just say in some kind of crazy world it happened. We're looking at this $1,000 for the option return turning into 41,450, which would be obviously absolutely amazing. So that's kind of how it would play out depending on the various share prices at the expiry date. And keep in mind, I can always sell this before the expiry date if there is a big spike and I feel like it's gotten really good value. So I think what could happen here, obviously there's always the chance I could lose all my money. I'm sure people buying at the SPAC date weren't expecting us to be sitting in 2024 with Rocket Lab in the 3s and 4s, and there's very smart people among that group as well. But what I'm thinking is more likely is kind of, maybe $15, maybe $10 range is possible if Electron has mastered reusability. They're getting good margins there. They're launching 20 plus a year. Space Systems continues to expand. They're executing on that $500 million plus contract for the SDA. Perhaps they've gotten a few more contracts. That reaction wheel deal is going through and they're starting to see some revenue on that. The Space Systems is where I expect the majority of that big revenue to come from. And then maybe we see a bump if there's an successful Neutron launch. And then, of course, the big thing that I'm really hoping for is to see a profitable quarter in Q4 of 2025, which I think would be the biggest catalyst of them all. Of course, the earnings date would not happen, so that's the only part I'm a little uncertain and unhappy about. But hopefully we'll get enough guidance and indications that it's coming that will move the stock significantly upwards. At least that's the hope. And you know what? If it is at a $7 share count, I've been wrong and I lose the 1,000. I'll still have my index funds. I'll still have the vast majority of my Rocket Lab shares, and I'll just have to evaluate what's going on with the company at that time. Because, yeah, if it's $7 per share in 2026, I think something's gone wrong. Something has gone not the way I expected it to. So definitely something I would have to reevaluate at that time. Let me know, curious to hear your thoughts on which of these scenarios is the most likely and whether you think the option is going to end up playing out better for me than owning the actual stock. I know, Stan, if you're watching out there, you seem to think the options are going to play out better, and I hope you do well as well. So that's most of the info I have for you today. I do think the move downward was overblown. These things often go too far to the upside on good news and too far to the downside on the bad news, and then they kind of trend back towards the middle in my experience, so I did buy on this down day. However, if there are additional capital raises in the future with Rocket Lab, I think that's probably a bad sign, and that's where I'm setting the goalpost is I don't want to see any more capital raises. I did take you through the trades I did make, and I'd love to hear what you've been doing down in the comments, whether positive or negative, whether you've lost interest in the company and the management, you've decided to sell. Always interested to hear opposing viewpoints as well. But most of all, I hope you guys are all doing pretty well yourself on a down day. I know it can be tough for a lot of us, especially newer investors, especially people who have been in it for a longer period of time and have larger sums of their net worth involved. So hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and I hope for all of our sakes the stock does go up in the near future. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.